Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 123 of the Peak of Serenity podcast. I am, once again, one of your hosts, emallson, and joining me, we have my co host, Anomoly.
Hello.
And this week, not a whole lot of alpha news, I don't think. Um, so, we do have Fated Sanctum of Domination. That's
Yes.
been that's been an adventure. And then 9.2.7, the auction house patch basically is
Yep.
coming on Tuesday. And there is still a little bit of alpha stuff. We've got some data mined spells that we think are monk.
Heck yeah.
So more than just the brewmaster ones that we talked about last time.
Yep.
But yeah, before we get into all that, how's your raid weekend? How is
Uh,
being back in Sanctum?
it was significantly easier than Nathria. And I don't know if that's just because the raid is easier or just it's like fresher in our minds. But no, we only did, I think we're only on that faded raid kick, so we only did Sanctum this week. And
Yeah,
we ended up going we got everything on Mythic down, but Painsmith and Sylvanas. So went
nice.
so went eight out of 10 there. Which was like a decent raid. I mean, like the first half was a joke, I think. We sort of steamrolled through everything.
Yeah,
Sorry, we also cleared heroic. So we basically steamrolled everything on Mythic until Painsmith, and then skipped Painsmith, went
solid
to
choice.
Guardian. Yeah, went to Guardian, which Guardian was still like an hour and a half, I think, of
Really?
progress.
Like,
Yeah.
so we actually, I guess, sorry to interrupt, but we also did
uh,
Guardian. We actually went Terragru, used the skip immediately, and went to
Okay.
Guardian. And I don't think we spent that long, but it did take us like 10 pulls. We had a
Yeah.
number of pulls on it, and it was a lot of like, oh, I used my ice block on accident. Now we can't do the immune soaks, or just
Yeah.
like people missing the pillar with their soak circles.
Yeah. We wiped a bunch of that. It's funny. We actually wiped the most though to the enrage. And primarily because we were only getting one faded affix or one of the faded things. So we'd get the first one, and I guess it's the dispel one. So you dispel and the three circles drop,
Right.
right? So he'd get the first one and he'd never cast it again.
What is wrong with your raid group?
I
That's
have
the
no idea.
second week in a row. What's your guild? I'm looking it up now. What's your guild name?
Highly uncouth. I don't. So like, and it was a, well, to be fair, it was a known bug. So I mean, we talk about it a little bit, but there was a hot fix where Blizzard said they
Okay.
adjusted some of the timings of faded affixes.
Oh, and it
But to
broke
be
it.
fair, yeah, to be fair, Guardian was only casting it once for us, and it was pretty. We had talked to a bunch of other guilds that had killed it at the time, and it was pretty universal. I think on Tuesday and maybe even into Wednesday a little bit, where Guardian was only casting the initial one and then never casting again. Um,
That's
we were
wild.
also five healing it, which was interesting. But yeah, it was we wiped a lot to the enrage, more than anything. I think we wiped probably like 4 or 5 times, getting which was the most out of all of them. But it was, I mean, overall though, it was fine. It was like fine progressing. Like nobody was really getting frustrated or upset.
Yeah.
It was more of just like a like if that was the boss we fought the first time, that would have been a decent, I mean, it still would have been a short boss, but it would have been a better
Right.
experience than like I think the first time we pulled it, we killed it, or the first time we killed it was like 4 pulls in or something ridiculous. Like
Yeah.
back when Sanctum was the current content. So
Yeah.
um they got that down. Didn't actually pull Sylvanas on Mythic. Basically went back to heroic and cleared everything on heroic.
Yeah. We're not doing
Um
Sylvanas on, I think. Even if like
yeah.
it's just right now it's not worth the time. Um
Yeah.
we so what we did is we did KT and Sylvanas heroic in main raid.
Yeah.
And then we went and did Terragru, skipped to Guardian, and then went and pulled Kel'Thuzad. And Kel'Thuzad actually, I really wish they had gutted that boss, or not. Not the whole boss, because a lot of it's fine. I wish that they had gutted the thing where the banshees become like kick immune and do a bajillion% increased damage when you don't push at exactly the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my god, like it's so frustrating. That's what we primarily were wiping to.
Yeah. The
The other
push.
thing we were running into is actually uh I wouldn't call it really a damage check, but lack of prio damage on Kel'Thuzad in the second, specifically the second main phase.
Yeah.
We were like
Yeah.
reaching, we were either pushing right after Tankette spawns, which is pretty dicey, or getting into the blizzard trying to finish off the last set of Tankettes by like stopping defense and going and killing the Tankette. So it was like we needed to figure out a little bit more damage there, and we started getting it more later. We did not actually kill it Friday,
Yeah.
but it shouldn't take us too long to knock it out tonight. And then we'll be going back and just doing the early bosses. Probably not like if everything goes well, we'll probably spend some time on Painsmith,
Yeah.
but it's not like basically for a lot of guilds what it seemed like this week is you picked whether to spend time on Kel'Thuzad or to spend time on Painsmith.
Right.
And
Yeah.
there are not a whole lot of guilds that did both.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, because when we were doing Guardian, because like we followed Nerfed a lot and sort of like what their strategy is, and yeah, we watched them basically wipe to Painsmith for the exact amount of time we wiped to Guardian on. So like it was pretty much like in lockstep with like yeah, you basically picked what you wanted to sort of progress on. So
Yeah.
um but yeah, no, it was I mean it was fun to go back to Sanctum. Like I think Sanctum gets generally a bad rap, but even like the earlier bosses are not terrible to reprogress. Like,
Yeah.
Soul Render wasn't bad. We wiped a little bit the Soul Render, maybe like once or twice. Um, the just like the ad, like just ad management was like the issue. Like just getting back in the
Yeah.
flow of like where you DPS and where you put your damage. And then Ner'zhul we wiped a couple times, primarily to just like terrible pushes.
Yeah.
And what we wiped on Farm Tooth was the same thing, which is
Yeah.
like either pushing at the wrong time or like yeah, or like not doing enough damage, so
I think
it wasn't
actually
bad.
funnily enough, I think Remnant benefits from it being on like this once per 3 weeks rotation because
Yeah.
you're not gonna be dealing with it the push timers being like different in important ways every single week. It's
Yeah.
gonna be like you go in, you haven't done this boss in like a year,
Yeah.
and so it's not really surprising that the push timers are gonna take a little bit of getting used to. You might have some really shitty ones, but you know,
Yeah. Yeah, and our tanks sort of remembering how awful the movement is by the boss was always fun. So we missed a
yeah,
couple orbs, like just because they're like,
yeah,
yeah, you have to move right away, or the boss doesn't move in time, and then like you miss the frontal. So
yep,
no, it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't a bad raid week. Like I don't mind Sanctum. It was fun. Like we the worst part about the entire night was when we did heroic really late on Tuesday, and we did what you did, was we basically did we did mythic up until like we had been wiping like to Guardian for a little bit, and or eventually killed Guardian. Then we had about a half hour left, so we went and killed Kel'Thuzad and Sylvanas on heroic.
right,
We did Sylvanas the first pull, literally got to the final platform and forgot about the dispels for the Fury and
and
wiped
died. Yes,
at 14 and a half minutes into this fight, or whatever it is, like
yeah.
13 minutes in, and I'm just like
Our first time, like
so angry.
I think we only had two pulls on Heroic Sylvanas, but the first pull was reaching phase three. We're 10 minutes into the fight,
Yeah.
and then just people like gobble up the puddles. They just like
Oh
do
yeah.
not respect the puddles because it's like, oh, we have a master spell. Not everybody
Not
got
not
hit with that master spell.
yeah.
So we
Yeah, and
lost
then
like
like
8 people immediately in the phase, and then limped along for a little bit longer, and then just ran out of healers. So we literally were unable to dispel the tanks. So then we
gosh,
just died.
gosh. Yeah. Yeah, that was an experience. I mean we also we killed it the next attempt, so it was only two pulls on Sylvanas. But yeah, it was funny. Like that was dying there like 14 minutes in. So but it was
Yeah,
nice. It was nice to go back. So
I
none
think
of the affix or sorry.
I think the other thing about Sanctum for us is that we have a lot more people that were in my raid team for Sanctum, so they've done these bosses with us before, and B have actually done Sanctum because we have a bunch of people like one of our tanks never did Castle Nathria. The other tank
Gotcha.
did not do the last three bosses of Castle Nathria, so it's like Sanctum though they've both full cleared it in their current roles, um,
Yeah.
so that's smooth things out a little bit. Um, Kel'Thuzad still sucks. I think Kel'Thuzad is just a big pile of ass. Um,
Yeah.
Speaking of the affixes though, um, the shield affix is actually really nice on Kel'Thuzad.
Oh,
Um,
if you can time it, yeah.
I did some looking yesterday to figure out how it really works because we were actually like having people swap to the like protoform barrier ad that spawns,
Mhm.
but you don't have to do that.
Right, yeah,
You
you
can
can
just
keep yeah.
damage anything. So what we were doing though is waiting for the tank ads to spawn, dispelling the barrier so it applies to all the tank ads, and then just killing the barrier. And what that does, the tank ads have about 300,000 health, and they take 200,000 damage from the
Yeah.
barrier backlash. So you just like all of the tank ads just get 2/3 of their health erased from that. Um,
Yeah.
and now knowing that we don't have to actually swap to the protoform barrier ad means that we're gonna get, I think, just a bunch of free damage off of that because like people putting dots and things on the boss get to keep them on the boss, and
Right,
then we
yeah.
can clean up the tank ads after that.
You get the follow-on damage, yeah. Yeah, that was, I think, yeah, our we had found like, we did that. I think it's during the second phase, there's a really good lineup, and even at the end of, like, I think the first one. So yeah, that's what we had been doing just to sort of, yeah, keep the tank heads under control. But I mean, we still wiped to the whole push thing. We actually wiped probably more to like damage balancing things. So
Yeah,
like essentially like having enough damage below because like all of our timings were different. Like our paladin doesn't play Ashen anymore, and like
yeah,
he was in going down, so it's like we lose like the third time down, or sorry, the second time down a ton of damage. We rotated like druids, like their ramps in and out. So yeah,
yeah,
it was definitely a little bit of prog. I mean the prog though isn't. I thought I would be more upset, not more upset, but more annoyed at the wiping. But to be fair, it's not. It's not that bad because like like where you wipe or when we do wipe, it's very clear. Okay, this is what we screwed up, and this is what
yeah,
we need to change. Versus like original progression was like either we know what we need to do and this is like the 10th time we wipe to this thing and now everybody's sort of frustrated, or
yeah.
it's like we're still figuring out stuff. So um
I think
no, it's not been bad.
I think generally agree with that. Um, we wiped more Guardian than I would have liked. Like we
Yeah.
just wiped to silly stuff because like we had pull two. We hit the end of the we hit the enrage, but it wasn't the real enrage. It was the enrage
Yeah,
because we missed like four of the threat neutralizations on the pillars
gotcha.
early on in the fight. So it was like a minute before it was supposed to be, and the boss had 10% health left when we
Yeah.
wiped. So it's like, okay, we can clearly do this. Let's just like get those things on the pillars, and then we're good to go. And then like 8 wipes later,
Finally, yeah.
we finally actually did it. It is just like 8 real quick, like minute long. Oh, oops, I pressed ice block, or oh, we missed two of the things on the first pylon, or stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's yeah, we had a couple of those, and those are like once we learned the dance, like once we went through it, like every time you missed a pillar, we just wiped it. So like no matter where it
yeah,
was just like if you miss, we just wipe, like play better is like
yeah.
sort of how we handled it.
Yeah,
So
we basically reached that point. If we missed something on the first pillar in particular, it was just it's to wipe. Just don't even
yeah,
try because it screws up everything else for the rest of the fight.
yeah,
And then Kel'Thuzad is just like I was not expecting to wipe to the damage check in the main phase. Like
uh-huh,
reaching the blizzard at all was kind of surprising, but I think we were also actually like throwing away a bunch of damage by hard swapping to the protoform barrier.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I think fixing
yeah,
that is going to fix a lot of issues. And then we have a couple of other like people are swapping covenants, and so our hunters. We went in and like our strat for the down phase was 3 hunters with wild spirits, a feral druid. That's it. Um,
nice.
Turns out the feral druid is like actually just crushing it, just like double anybody else's damage to it. and the
Jesus.
wild spirits are not actually getting a ton of value from it. Like the wild spirits is there for sure, but it's
Right.
like a third of the value they would get from a wild spirits, where they get to like plant in their Dreamweaver thing
Uh-huh.
if they were doing it in the main phase. So we're taking some wild spirits off of that, and like the hunters are going down. They're playing Venthyr this time, and gonna
Yeah.
like a little bit less down phase damage and a lot more upstairs damage.
Nice. Nice. That's cool. I mean, yeah, that's yeah. Hopefully you get it. I mean, you should get it through it tonight. That'll be easy, and then yeah, clean up
And
the
then we
the
just
lower
go
half.
back, yeah, and do the lower
Yeah,
half.
yeah. One thing I would tell you, I learned this today or this week was that revival dispels the creation spark debuffs.
Yes, it does.
Um, and I did it on the 9
While they
as
were
the
the
purple
purple
soak
soaks.
while the purple soaks are coming
Yeah.
out. As we were moving away from a big shield, because like we had taken, I think, a meteor hit or something, some sort of
Yeah.
overlap, and like just instinctively hit revival, and then it's like my Raider's like, "What the hell?" I'm like, revival to spell set. My bad, guys." Luckily, we
Yep.
were able to soak it all, but I was just like,
Oops.
my fault there. So
Yeah.
that was a
Some of the
fun moment.
soak ones are kind of troll. Like it's really hard actually to find time to do the soaks on Guardian. Um,
Yeah, we did time it because you have to time it between like the tank soak mechanic and then
and the threat
at least we would.
neutralizations. Because
Yeah,
what we
yeah,
had happen is if you dispel during threat neutralizations, basically the circles can like spawn around, it seems like, anybody in the raid. So if the whole raid is stacked, it's
yeah,
fairly tight. We had one where one of the circles went out past the pylon because there was somebody still out there, like they had just finished doing their mechanic. If we had
yeah,
dispelled it like 2 seconds sooner, they would have had to choose between not soaking the thing so the whole raid gets the dot,
yeah.
or putting the threat neutralization on the pillar. And like we survived that one, but it was like, wow, we got to be
That's
careful
yeah.
about that because we can screw ourselves with that.
No, yeah, that's I didn't yeah, that's scary. We had a couple that they wouldn't spawn that far, but we were dispelling. I mean, we only got one set of it, but like that first one, there's such a short time between you having to dispel after the tank soak and then those neutralizations go out. And we had a couple where like the circle would be in the main circle from one of the threat neutralizations. So it's just like, well, we either soak it and take like somebody might die or like
Yeah,
um or yeah, just screwed up. So we had to like get the timing down almost like split second perfect
yeah.
to make them go off.
But
But
yeah, like the soaks
um
on the 9 don't seem pleasant either with the all the other stuff that forces
no,
movement.
yeah, it's there's like and plus like with dispels, like we ran into a couple issues where we dispelled the debuffs and then the other debuff, the other like 4-person debuff you have to dispel off
Right.
would come out and then it's like you're now people are waiting out like at range, like our melee are getting upset with us. I'm like, we're sorry. Like two people don't have dispels, so two of you have to sit there for a little bit. So
Yeah.
yeah. It was fun though to go back. I mean, Sanctum was a fine raid, I think. Like the fights were fine. Other than Sylvanas being like 14 years long and Painsmith being what it is on heroic, it's not bad. It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
So
I don't. Yeah, I'm looking forward to going back and doing the front half of the raid.
yeah.
I would be very happy if they just like this afternoon were to put in a little hot fix and just like gutted Kel'Thuzad,
Yeah. Maybe.
maybe. Um, that's my like. I really still don't like Kel'Thuzad. I'm really glad we have no plans to do Fate Scribe this week. Basically, like if we have
Yeah.
time, like I almost think we would do. I mean, if we have time, we'll probably pull it because it's going to take fewer pulls than doing
Right.
Painsmith.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I would rather do Paints. I would rather go and pull Painsmith and not kill it personally than do Fate Scribe and kill it, unless we like one shot it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad. So well cool. I guess I mean that's sort of the raid week. I mean Fated was it's fun to go back. We have what? Sepulcher up next. So
Yeah, that's gonna be weird. So we
it'll-
talked about doing like going back and doing Sepulcher for mounts this week, and it ended up not
yeah.
materializing. Um, but next week is gonna be really weird doing like Fated Sepulcher.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. we'll see. We'll see what the affixes are. It'll be interesting. I'm curious as to what Halandris's affix is going to be, and
Oh man,
um what actually what Ragalan's will be. Because like
I
if
I,
Ragalan's
I bet Ragalan's the soak circles. I bet it's the soak circles because
that's the one I was not.
that's the one that would be the worst. That would be awful.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was worried about, was that it being the
Uh,
soak
so
circles. But
Ragalan's gonna get the soak circles because that would suck.
yeah.
Jailer's gonna get the kick one, so that you have to
Oh
like
God.
be careful not to kick it before you have to line of sight. That's gonna be great. We're gonna get
Okay.
on on Lords of Dread. We're going to get man, which one? We're gonna get chaotic modes, and the first one's gonna be during the first swarm. So just to
Oh my
completely
God.
disconnect your raid from the game.
Great. Before the damage, like get the damage amp after the actual damage amp
Yeah,
phase.
yeah,
Great.
yeah, and also just
God.
have a lag fiesta from all of the modes being out while you're doing your bloodlust with CDs on the swarm.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be
Uh,
terrible.
and then let's see, Anduin's gonna have the dispels, and it's gonna come up during the intermission as well. And even better, you'll get dispels, and like one person will be downstairs and the other person will be upstairs.
Oh
And
no. So it'll be split. Oh,
yeah,
dude, those sound terrible. Those sound terrible. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
ugh.
I I
Hopefully
I,
it's
I
not
hope
that
I'm
bad.
wrong on all counts.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. Gosh, that's funny. Um. Well, cool. Well, yeah. I mean, I guess we'll see for next week what the how it goes. Even, I mean, I'm a little nervous about actually rating with this patch timing, but we'll talk about that
Oh
in a
yeah.
second. In a second.
Actually, yeah, we can hit a couple of the news items and then jump into stuff about 9.2.7.
Yeah, so there's really only one news item I really wanted to hit on, and it's not monk related, but it's in general Wowhead related. So like the idea here is that, or so the post went up that Wowhead's now recruiting for their Invoker Guidewriter positions. And this is sort of my time to be like, if you enjoy writing about a class and you think Invoker is going to be a cool class to play with, I'd suggest sort of getting involved in this. It's super fun. You get to like get yelled at by a bunch of people in comments and told you're an idiot, every time you write something. So it's a cool thing, but no, just in general, I mean, like Wowhead's recruiting their writers, which generally will mean we'll see a bunch of Invoker stuff starting to come out content wise from them, guides and things like that. So um, that is up there. And to be fair, since it's open to everyone, potentially some positions with some of the other class guides, if you play one of the other class, maybe a monk writer gets picked to write the new preservation guide, and there's a Mistweaver position open. So we'll see.
Are you switching to Evoker for
No,
Dragonflight?
no, not me. Not at all. But no, in any event, like wow, it's got their post up. Generally this means that like we're getting more and more. Hopefully, this means that we're starting to open up alpha, right? We get maybe into some beta phase soon
Yeah,
after the next few weeks.
I have not actually been on Alpha in like a couple weeks because I've been so busy with like trying to do season 4 stuff. Okay,
Yeah,
the Valor
I'm
not
really enjoying season 4.
yeah, I mean, Valor being uncapped on the one hand is pretty nice. On the other hand, like people are going ham in keys. And so like to keep up
Yeah,
with people in my guild, I'm like, okay. I think I've done 10, 12 more keys this week. Like it
I'm
hasn't let
actually
up
about
yet.
the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I finished
Yeah.
off not last night, but Thursday night I finished off the last. What week is it? It's fortified week, right?
Yeah.
I finished off the last fortified key I need.
Yeah.
So now I'm like I missed one or two tyrannical keys.
I am
Oh.
still I think I have six, no, 5 fortified keys that I haven't done
Oh
because
wow.
a bunch of my keys this week were helping somebody grind Gambit for a staff because there's only 2 staves that drop from keys right now, the int
It,
staves,
yeah, yeah.
and it's Gambit and like Iron Docks, and Gambit is infinitely easier, and also the staff is better for them. So we just like did 4 or 5 Gambits.
Nice. Yeah, I've lived in a workshop this week basically.
Yeah.
Of like the 12 or 13 keys I've done, over half of them been workshop because I need the other ring,
Oh
fortunately.
yeah,
So
I have that one. I am missing the one from Junkyard, and everybody is in like the opposite boat for me. They're all like, "Okay, we need workshop for the haste ring," and I'm like, "I need one of the ones that turns it on because I've got the
yeah.
haste ring, the one that is like there's the if then ring pairs.
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
got
yeah.
the then. that gives
Got
you
the bit band,
haste,
yeah.
which if you're expecting me to be Brewmaster, I'm sorry to disappoint. I'm playing Mage this season, so that
Yeah.
one's actually good for me. It is not good for Brewmaster. Don't use it. And I need an if that turns it on. I actually got an if. It's
Which
when you use an ability below 50% health.
Oh no, yeah. That one's not too bad for healers, but yeah, for DPS that sounds awful.
It's
So
really not very good,
yeah,
especially because um the stats on the if rings are really bad for Fire Mage.
yeah,
So you only want to wear it if it turns on the bonus haste from the other ring.
gotcha.
So yeah, it's something. But I have not spent much time on Alpha, which
Yeah,
is maybe I try and get a couple of the new dungeons in because there are new dungeons. I'm not going to talk about them because I haven't done them.
yeah. No, I also have been living in Keys this week, so between raiding and Keys, it's been yeah. I mean, season 4 surprisingly, I'll say, is a lot more fun than I thought it would be. I think the uncapped valor helps, and I think the fact that the dungeons are new helps too. So
Yeah, I am very excited for the prospect of rotating dungeons in Dragonflight. Like
yeah,
I think that's going to be a huge success given how this season is going. Like we've been in
yeah,
this expansion for fucking ever,
yeah,
and just like a rotation of the dungeons. We have two dungeons that we've already done. We already know, and then six that we don't. And that's a different balance than we're going to get in Dragonflight, where it's going to be like actually rotating all eight first couple of
yeah,
seasons. But it's gonna be fun. Like I
yeah. It'll
think
be
that's a really big success.
Yeah, it'll be nice not to be like, all right, now it's time to go back to mists for the next 4 weeks to farm up a trinket, right? Like
Yeah,
that'll be the cool thing. Um so yeah, so other than that, I guess, maybe in a couple weeks we'll do our full review of of um of like season 4, how we're feeling after we get like a full faded rotation in.
yeah,
But yeah, no, it's been a good start to the season. So
yeah. I agree. I
um
agree. Before we get into 9.2.7 stuff,
okay.
final thing: predictions for the severity of nerfs after we get through the first rotation of the raid, or either next week or first
Yeah.
rotation of the raid.
I don't think you mean like raid wise or like
Raid
just
wise, raid wise.
raid wise. Um, to be fair, I think if I was Blizzard, I would give it one more rotation. And the only reason I say that is that if we're gonna get severe nerfs, it'll be I think after the second full rotation because the first one you're sort of gearing up, you're getting to a level of like, okay, here's the level that Blizzard wants you at,
Right.
which like what is heroic drop like
291.
two. Yeah, 291. So like our raid was not 290 even close as we were doing Mythic, right? So you'd want to see
Yeah.
what Mythic looks like at everybody being around 291. So I would say one more rotation of limited nerfs, and then we'll start to see the big like, all right, now Stone Legion Generals falls over when you breathe on them type nerfs. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Okay.
Um, because I think the other thing too is they'll want to like the weird thing about this season is I wonder. I mean, well, and that's if they're going to nerf it at all, right? Because I think the other thing from Blizzard's perspective is, do they care if you clear all of Mythic, right? Like, do they like because at the end of season 3, there was a push to say, okay, we need to get these guilds through Mythic as fast as possible. You know what I mean?
I think they do
And I
care,
want,
or at least I think they care about more than have been clearing it, right? Like
gotcha.
last week we had like 10 public logs of Denathrius mythic kills, right? I think they don't care about literally everybody getting through mythic, right? I think
Yeah,
they would I feel like they probably want more than 10.
yeah, yeah. No, they definitely probably want more than 10. Um, but I don't know if they would care if like the top 1,000 guilds,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Um, but no, we'll see. I mean, I think we'll see limited stuff as we go into the second rotation, and then if they really want, then at the start of the third rotation will be where I think Blizzard makes the decision of how fast we want to push people through this. Um, how fast we want to push people through this before Dragonflight drops, right?
Yeah.
So
Okay. Fair.
yeah, we'll see.
I'm gonna go a different direction than you. Uh,
Okay,
I'm calling in the next 2 weeks 15 to 20% nerfs across the board.
interesting. On top of just, I guess, on top of just the gear increases too.
Right.
Like,
So basically, my reason for that is that so typically, barring stuff like tier sets and legendaries and stuff like that, typically a increase in eye level by 10 is about a 10% increase in player power, in your damage, in your healing, in your health,
right.
and it's just 10% more of what you've got. And so realistically, the most you can get outside of doing like clearing Mythic is 298.
Yep.
So I did check your clear of Mythic Guardian. You were around 288, 289 as a raid team. Mine, we were about 290. So like we're both around that same level. So we're gonna be getting about 10% stronger
Yep.
max outside of stuff that comes from Mythic. And neither of our guilds are full clearing Mythic, although we are getting closer in Sanctum
Yeah.
than in Castle Nathria. So I think that like we like the fact that we're not even touching the end bosses this week.
Yeah.
We're gonna get 10% stronger, but I don't think 10% stronger gets us to the point that we're just like killing the end boss very easily. I think it's still going to be a pretty significant challenge for us to full clear the raid instance in a week, then not do it for 2 weeks and come back and do it again.
Yeah.
So I think that they're going to give us another 15% off the top and just like, here you go, like just tune it down a little bit, get more people through it, and then we will gain more power from gear, but like we have to be reliably full clearing in order to approach the 20% power gain that exists in potential. Because like when
Yeah.
we're like 311, 310 eye level, then that's 20% more powerful than we are now, or more like 25% because it's exponential. But
Yeah.
in order to get there, we have to already be full clearing. So it's like this chicken and egg problem. And
Right.
just
Yeah.
because of the rotation, I feel like they're gonna go ahead and do it. And I think they could do it for Sepulcher Week because it's so like it's the one we just like it's the most recent raid tier. Nobody
Right.
really
Right.
wants
Right.
to reprog it.
Yeah.
But I definitely I'm calling it by the time we are back in Castle Nathri, we're getting another 15% nerf.
All right. All right. We'll hold you to it. We'll talk in 2 weeks. We'll see. We'll see what they say. But yeah, that'll. I mean, I get the logic. I don't. Yeah. I don't know if I.
It really comes down to what their goals are.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Like if they want everybody to clear as much as they can. So it'll be interesting though. Um. Well, cool. I guess let's move slightly forward. And talk about, I guess, the surprise patch, we can call it. That's what I called it. But the 927 patch is actually dropping this week. So
Yep.
927 is essentially the auction house patch. With really only auction house stuff inside of it, or trading stuff. I think there's an update to trade chat. So quickly going over, what's coming in is the auction house is now region wide for commodities listing. So that's like gems, herbs, flasks, consumables, things like that are across the entire region. Um, so that means that like there's everybody in North America is going to pull from the same like herb listings.
Right.
Similarly, EU will be all the same, and then China will have their version of it. So that's coming this week. I think we talked about this a little bit when it was announced.
Yeah.
And the idea is this will greatly help like the smaller server populations, right?
Yep.
You essentially get access to a much larger pool of resources, which hopefully should keep the cost down, which in turn will allow you to not have to transfer off. Things like armor and weapons will continue to be realm specific, but so this is just the commodities, but it's basically the materials you need to create those items, right?
So
Um,
for stuff like legendaries, this means that the legendary items themselves are not cross region, but the materials to create them are cross region. And with all of the nerfs to the actual difficulty of crafting them, like right now, it's actually fairly reasonable to craft your own legendaries from scratch. To just like Go pick
Yeah.
up leatherworking, rank up to rank 4, go buy the thing to upgrade that to rank 6 or 7 or whatever it is from Zerath Mortis, and make your own. Um,
Yep.
it is not cost efficient, but it is practical.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're not spending all of your gold to do that. It's not too bad. So I think, yeah, this is launching this week. I mean, I think it's a very good change just for the game in general. I think it supports a little bit of the smaller servers. Larger servers probably will not see much of a difference, we'll say. You already had a
Yeah,
huge, swath of things. I think the only thing that's potentially hurts are like the auction house goblins, right? Who would
yeah.
corner and own a market on a specific server.
But
Although I don't like not knowing much about the economy, I don't know how much that would be like a commodities based thing. Like a lot of times I feel like they cover more like the stuff you craft from the commodities,
right.
which won't change.
Well, some of them will, like
Oh,
flasks
flaskers.
and
Yeah.
potions and things like that. So there, something that you could do that will no longer be possible is what is called a reset, where like people would be listing things like a flask or a potion at below the price that you wanted to sell for, but there weren't that many of them, so you'd buy everything below that point and
Yep.
relist them at the price that you wanted and reset the price to a higher value, and turn a profit like that. Which, in my opinion, is scummy, and I'm glad is no longer going to be possible. Um,
There.
so, no sympathy. I am glad. This is a good change. Removing the ability for people with lots of gold to further manipulate the economy in order to generate more gold is only a good thing. There is no downside.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that'll be a good change. And then I think as Berth here in chat said, it's not a huge deal for or for the current expansion, but in Dragonflight, hopefully, yeah, those early week, you know, um auction house prices stay somewhat lower. I think they'll still be high, like they'll always be high, but
Yeah.
not as astronomical as they typically are. And like as a
Well,
player who does zero gathering, it
yeah.
just helps my gold
Yeah.
situation.
Well, it was so painful looking at the auction house prices at the beginning of Shadowlands on Terralion, because it wasn't just legendaries that were like legendaries were inaccessible. Legendaries were just like not there.
Yeah.
You just couldn't. Um but that really, we talked a lot about that, but flask prices were like 4 times that of Illidan Area 52 for the first couple of months of Shadowlands. And so this kind of normalization, um, you could probably take the bottom 40 servers and they have as much population as Area 52. So
Yeah.
like those servers are going to massively, massively, massively benefit from this.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's definitely a good change there. And then and along with this, which is cool, is they're bringing back the mobile auction house. So the WoW companion app that's out there that lets you see like world quests set up and things like that will also provide a way for you to access the auction house, which is something they took away a while ago, but are bringing it back now with the whole mobile or with the global sort of commodities market. So you can still do the same things you did before. You can look at auctions, you can bid on things, you can buy out things, you can search for stuff. You can even cancel your own auctions if you need to. So um, nice little change. Surprising. I didn't think they announced this, but at least previous to the patch. But
I think they have
um,
mentioned it in like a very recent post, but it was not
Gotcha.
part of the original auction house announcement, I don't think. The one thing that you won't be able to do is sell or relist items. So, like, if you cancel your own auction, you have to
Yeah.
actually log into the game, get on your character, and go post it. So you
Yep.
can't do like undercutting stuff where you like cancel and relist for a lower price.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I think was the original issue because it gave some players like an quote unquote unfair advantage, which
You
is just
you could
like
you could bot that very easily
yeah.
with like an Android emulator.
Yeah.
Installing the remote auction house on your emulator, and then like just like you could do your cancel scans on there effectively.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. So this is a nice little change. I will probably never use this because I don't think I care enough. But yeah, no, it's a if you care about the auction house stuff, it's cool to do it. And then just the final thing is they've added a new trade chat called Trade Chat Services, where you should use this channel to advertise like raiding, dungeons, PvP activities, any sort of those boosting things that you're like, hey, we'll run you through, 15s for gold,
Yep.
um, which is will never be used. I don't think this channel like it'll
I
be.
think it will be because I think people in regular trade chat will mass report anybody that advertises
Oh, fair enough.
sales in the regular trade chat because they aren't going to want to see it. I think they're going to get mass reported. And that's
That's
the only
true.
reason. It's not because they actually are going to be like good actors and go to the appropriate channel. They're going to get just mass reported and silenced for doing it in the wrong channel.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. I guess maybe we need the community to police themselves on this one, but yeah, I feel like trade chat is still to this day like it's more more active than general chat in a lot of cities, just because that's where everybody's either posting
Yeah,
things or people are just being idiots.
doing Thunder Fury memes.
Yeah, Thunder Fury memes, of course.
Yep.
So um, no, so we'll see, but this is another services channel you can use for like your sort of boosting activities, which it's not, yeah, which is
Yeah.
what that's for. So
One note about the deployment of this patch. So we're getting extended maintenance on the weekly reset this time around.
extremely long. So what is 3 p.m. Pacific is what they said,
Yeah,
which is
that
just
is if you're on the East Coast, that's 6 o'clock. So like
yeah,
the other
crazy.
team in my guild starts right at 8. So if that maintenance gets extended, it's gonna
Oh, we're
run up
screwed.
right against their raid time. And I don't know when your raid is, but I assume it's a similar situation on
Oh,
Tuesday.
it's 8 o'clock too. Yeah. So like,
Yeah.
yeah, Tuesday will be this like scrambling for the last hour to see if we like add-ons are bugged or anything's like needs to be like updated and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun.
So it's gonna be pretty wild again because there was extended
Yeah.
maintenance for Fated the first time around. There was also relatively long maintenance this past week for Fated Sanctum.
Yep. Mhm.
So we're like 3 weeks in of like fairly extensive maintenance on Tuesdays. Although I think EU missed a lot of the extended maintenance. Like they had maintenance, but not nearly as long. Not
Yeah.
extended. You know, they work out the issues while they're fixing NA.
Yeah. Exactly. God.
Um,
Exactly.
but the other thing about this patch release, auctions that are listed when the patch is going live are going to get canceled.
Yep. Yeah.
So just be prepared if you have stuff up on the auction house, you log in and have about 1 million mail with all of
Oh
your
yeah. Shoot.
items.
I just posted everything for the week from like my
Well, like
from my table. So
the maximum list duration is like 2 days, right? I guess that would be Tuesday.
yeah, it'll run up into maintenance for sure. So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So interesting. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll have a bunch of mail to log into, I guess, if stuff doesn't sell over the next 2 days. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, cool. No, I mean, that's basically what this patch coming out is really just this auction house stuff. There's nothing. At least I haven't seen anything posted, which we'll probably get it tomorrow if we do anything posted in terms of like hot fixes or anything like that
Yeah.
going into Tuesday. So,
Yeah.
um, for now, it is it's just the auction house patch, which is probably one of the like this just reminds me of like the selfie camera patch from like
Okay.
what was that WAD?
Yeah. But the selfie camera patch was a major patch, remember?
Oh, that's true. That's true. It was. You're right. It was like a point 0.5. Okay, fair enough. Fair
Yeah,
enough.
we're going
Slightly
from
different.
like
Slightly different.
9.2.5 to 9.2.7. That's like okay, that's a small bump. We're okay. The other thing is this is way better than the selfie cam.
That's true.
This
That
is
is true.
way better than the selfie cam. Like the selfie cam is like or the Twitter patch like okay, I understand from an engineering perspective why that took some time, but that was definitely not a major patch. Um
That's true.
the um the like auction house stuff like that sounds like a huge task.
That's true. That is true. Yeah, this is it's a ton of engineering that sort of all goes into this. So um yeah, but we'll see. I think it'll generally be good for the game. So I'm excited for this for sure. So um well, cool. Well, I guess sort of moving forward a little bit, we've only talked about like faded, and that's it, I guess. But we got some class training this week. Nothing to monks, but the interesting thing is they destroyed Survival Hunters 4-piece and basically
Okay.
bumped a bunch of their single target damage. Yeah, it's another 50 or another I guess 20% reduction.
Yep.
Um in terms of like it was 70, now it's reduced to 50% bonus damage. So another reduction there, set bonus damage, but this came with essentially similar 20% buffs to all of their single target abilities like kill command, servant sting, rapid strike, mongoose bite. Um
Yep.
yeah, I mean, to be fair, I don't know. Like, I ran a couple of keys with survival hunters. They still crush
Yeah.
AoE big pulls. So, like,
Yeah.
I mean, they continue to have that sort of, I guess, niche. Maybe they don't crush as hard, but
So
um,
the other change that
yeah,
came this week was Destro locks getting another nerf to their AoE with Ring of Fire and Immolation Aura from their Infernal.
yep,
Um, these are just the two outliers on AoE. The funny thing is they target capped the or like didn't cap it, but the fall off damage. They start splitting damage from the Survival Hunter force or bombs at 8
yep.
targets now, right? How many dungeons do you pull more than 8 targets right now?
None. I mean, maybe you can talk about like lower Kara, like the groups of mobs, but I don't think
Yeah,
there's. We generally don't pull more than two of those.
yeah.
That's like the and I guess maybe junkyard.
It's like Junkyard and
Some of
Gambit
the
with the
Yeah, yeah.
Murlocs.
Yeah, Murloc Packs and Gambit, and then Junkyard only the one side, like heading to like
Yeah,
the guy who does the smash with the electro things
yeah. The Trog
or
Amulet
whatever.
things. Yeah.
The Trog, yeah. Yeah. But yeah,
Um,
no, you're right. Yeah. So it doesn't I guess they're still kings of AoE for sure.
I do think it is really funny going back to the Legion dungeons, which are remembered for like huge pulls and like
Yeah.
hiding and all this stuff. And we go back to these Legion dungeons and we're pulling like a pack at a time. Like
Yeah.
I know there are people pushing hierarchies, so they're definitely doing more than that, but for regular gamers,
Oh yeah.
it's like a pack at a time. Um,
And even then it's like sketchy as hell, like certain packs. Like particularly like the Karazhan dungeons.
yeah,
Whew.
yeah. There's like parts of like the area before Maiden of Virtue in Lower Kara. We are
Yes, that
doing like
hallway.
we're doing like you can do like 2 packs at a time, but if you get three, the like mind control charm enemies will ruin your day.
Yeah. And that one also suffers from the fact that there are rugs in the middle of it, and
Oh
so
yeah,
it hides ground effects, which is just a great thing to like get a
yeah,
sleep circle just charge across on you when you think you're safe. So
yeah. They
yeah,
did. That's another one of the hot fixes from this week. Um, they quote increase the visibility of the sleep cloud. And what they did is it is now it was like a narrow like a relatively just a little cloud on the floor, right? Now it is a
yeah,
slightly higher cloud on the floor, so it shows up above the rugs.
yeah, yeah.
Sanguine
It's
though still hidden.
yeah, it's definitely interesting, like the older dungeons, some of the things you see, and the fact that they are so difficult. But I guess yeah, in terms of the older dungeons, if we talk about some of the hot fixes that came in for those, um, all basically Grimrail, Iron Docks, and Lower Kara, and even Upper Kara. We got a ton of just individual hot fixes to either bosses, which is generally there's a bunch of damage reduction across the board. Basically, every one
Right.
of these is a reduction in the amount of damage these things do. Um, the interesting one that I thought was out of all of them was actually the lower Kara one around the philanthropist no longer casting throw coin,
Okay. Yeah.
which is such an interesting ability to take off because like it's not that hard to deal with. And
No, no,
so,
no, no. You're thinking of the pennies from heaven.
oh, is this a different thing?
This is a different thing. So they did a cast on the tank
Oh,
where they throw a coin. It's a magic hit that can't be blocked, can't be parried, can't be dodged.
gotcha. Okay, so they reduced. Okay, so I haven't actually pulled that though. Yeah, I guess we have pulled those mobs, but I don't remember them casting it.
It's
Huh.
not so it
Okay,
doesn't have
I'm
a
just an
cast
idiot.
time. It's just like they just do it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I don't remember they do the pennies from heaven thing. That's the thing I couldn't
Oh
remember. So I
yeah,
thought they were the same
they still
ability.
do that.
Yeah,
If you it they don't cast it immediately, so it's like if you kill them quickly enough, they just don't cast it. Or if you have people
yeah.
throwing out stuns and
Tons, yeah.
stuff, it doesn't. happen. Um, but yeah, there's another ability similar to this, and I believe Iron Dox is just called Throw, and
Gotcha.
uh, it's very very similar to this. That didn't it got missed. It deals physical damage to one in Iron Dox, but it's the same kind of like not block, not parry. Stagger is magic damage, even though it's a physical damage hit. Um,
Gotcha.
so this was removed because it was effectively not mitigable by modern tanks. In Legion, if you recall, Brewmasters had much higher magic stagger. Mark of Ursol existed for the first half of the expansion. Bears really don't have any other issues with it. Blood decays are actually still fine with it, but then like Protection Warrior just like has nothing. It goes straight to their health pool. Uh,
Yeah.
Protection Paladin, again, effectively nothing.
Yeah. Okay, well then these are, I guess they're good in terms of the tank damage, because like there are a couple of pulls even still in lower Kara that like the stuff around attunement I feel like just crushes tanks, like that trash. So
Yeah,
but no, a ton of hot fixes to dungeons just across the board.
yeah. I think one of the
But
other ones that is pretty significantly impactful. There's some nerfs to Moreau's also in Lower Kara.
yeah.
Specifically, the bleed. This used to be a permanent bleed. It is now a 1 minute duration. And the way that this bleed works, or the application of this bleed works, is that Moreau's basically teleports to somebody, puts the bleed on them, and moves on with his life. Except he always targets the person with the least stacks of the bleed. If there's ties, there's some rules around figuring out who it targets. It's usually the healer first, yada yada yada. But beyond just like making it so this doesn't stack permanently if you do things to manage it, what
Hmm.
it also means is that one person having the ability to remove the bleed with like a Kyrian file or the dwarf racial or an immunity, um, now effectively caps the number of stacks that the group get, because
It's true. Yeah.
now they'll remove their stacks, and Morose is going to spend the next time reapplying it to them, and the rest of the group won't have their stacks refreshed and will get it to drop off.
That's true. I didn't think about it that way. Yeah. Yeah, that Morose fight is still like healing it even at a
It's
15
still
level.
intense.
Like, yeah, like I don't think I've like the 3 or 4 times we've done it, I don't think I've left that fight with more like with any mana, like at all. Like it's just it's extremely long, and like the dot hits really hard. And the
Yeah.
I think the problem is it hits healers first. Like
Yes.
I think in every pull I've been the first targeted with the bleed, so it's always on me, which is just
Yeah. Just
yeah, it's
leech.
annoying.
Just leech,
Yeah, just okay. Okay, bud.
Just
Okay.
leech.
Okay.
Beacon
Um
yourself. You're a paladin, right?
no, it's terrible class. Does 0 healing anyway. So yeah. So yeah, so tons of like of dungeon hot fixes. Which I think we'll continue to see probably more of these as sort of the season goes on a little bit more. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, they also, I guess, also in terms of hotfixes, they buffed a bunch of items that I don't think are actually still going to be good. But the junkyard items, the various items in junkyard, like the staff that you take damage to get an int buff, and I think there's leather wrists that do like are an on use that do damage.
Those are actually good
Um,
in single target now.
okay, they're
For
better now.
Brewmaster. They're actually worth
Okay.
using.
Gotcha. But in any event, they buffed a bunch of items in terms of, and some pretty substantial buffs. We'll say like some are like 100%. The shock coil staff is 473%
Yeah.
stronger. But at least for healers, none of these items are really going to be, or well, Mistweaver in specific, aren't really going to be items that changes the way you've been gearing. A
Yep.
lot of them are more like DPS focused, and to be fair, that shock coil staff is just still bad. So it suffers
There's
from the fact that it's all of its stats are reduced just so that you get the proc. So
right. It is I know of one class that it's good for. One spec even to that is Arcane Mage. Because the
gotcha.
45-second cooldown lines up with your rate of power windows. So you do your the way Arcane works is you have a really big burst where you stack all of your cooldowns, and this just gives you one more to stack there. You do all of your damage during that window, and then effectively nothing until your next one. And your next one is a mini window 45 seconds later, and you just do it again. So the cooldown from this just exactly lines up with that.
Nice. Okay.
But I know of
That wor-
nobody else that would even use this because just like having effectively no stats on your weapon for most of the fight is really not optimal.
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, so a bunch of just item updates, double check to see if they're good for you now. But yeah, I don't other than that one, I don't think most of them are sort of gotta have now or best in slot across the
Yeah, I
board.
have the
So
Ring of Collapsing Futures. I got it fairly early on. This is actually the second buff to its damage. The first one also
oh
buffed
really?
it by about 100%.
Interesting.
Um, and it's really not very good. It's like 40 DPS, which in terms of items is actually relatively significant for a ring as just like free value.
Uh-huh.
But it is, so if you're not familiar with it, you read the tool, you don't realize that this happens. But when you use it, you get a debuff that lasts 30 seconds. It says, it basically reads, your ring has a chance to go on a 5-minute cooldown. It stacks.
Oh Jesus. Okay.
So there's this like micromanagement that you have to do to not put your ring on a 5-minute cooldown, and the DPS that you get from it is really not worth that. Really,
Gotcha.
really not. So like, I had macroed it into Rune of Power for me because that's a 45-second cooldown. It's the closest I could get. Somebody mathed it out, and it works out for like Fire Mage. One of the highest expected value option is basically putting it on Phoenix Flames, and you just put it on Phoenix Flames and you forget about it. Macro it
Gotcha.
into the ability, and if it goes on cooldown, sucks to be you, but it was not a significant factor in your damage either way.
Gotcha. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I forgot about that ring. Um, yeah, no, there's definitely some interesting loot that's available. It's just like it's just not great, right?
Yeah,
Like other than some maybe like one or two pieces that are good for like a specific scenario, there's nothing that's like, oh man, they're amazing.
yeah,
I guess the Mechagon rings fall into that, like at least
right.
for certain classes. But in terms of like the fun on use items, yeah, there's not many of them. So
Yeah, I mean, like even the Mechagon bracers for mages, which were like huge in BFA, right,
oh yeah.
are
Mhm.
significantly less powerful this expansion just due to changes to the class, new legendaries, new covenant
Mhm.
stuff. It's just significantly lower value compared to last expansion. It's like a 1.5% DPS upgrade in single target to put them
Gotcha.
on.
But nothing you're gonna like
Yeah,
spend your days in workshop for.
yeah. I mean, you're already going to spend your days in workshop chasing that ring. Like
That's true.
I have one just from helping other people try and get their rings, right? I
Yeah.
also got the other staff, the 45-second one. So I'm like kitted out in all of the workshop gear. I'm not
Nice.
wearing either the bracers or the staff right now, but I have it if I wanted
Yeah,
it.
yeah. If you wanted to go that route, that's funny. Nice, nice. Um, well, cool. I guess continue on our fun hotfix bonanza. Just two final ones, then I think we can start talking about the monk stuff. But Blizzard did go back and do a bunch of adjustments to when certain fated powers are spawning. And so to better align with when you'd most use them. Sludge Fist is an interesting one. I don't know if you we didn't do Sludge Fist on Mythic that week, but I was hearing that basically the Fated Affix was spawning after Pillars, which is always
Yeah.
fun.
The
Um,
the first one spawned before, the other one spawned after
yeah.
or during.
So they adjusted that, and then they did adjust a couple of like the Sylvanas and Guardian. Guardian now I think cast it more than once, which is nice. That was the timing that they adjusted there. They basically said instead of only casting once, maybe you should cast more than once. That's there. But yeah, they did go through that, and then the biggest I think final hotfix is they actually increased the drop rate of Cosmic Flux by 100% in all content that drops it. So in raids, PvP, and Mythic Plus, which is massive. I'll say, just in terms of like now, if you play your main, like we killed what boss did we kill right at the end there? I think it was like heroic.
Sylvanas Heroic dropped
Oh,
1,250
that's what I was gonna
Cosmic
say.
Flux.
Yeah, like 1200, which is a massive amount.
That's
And it
half
just
a
makes it so
it's half a
sorry?
legendary right there. One boss, half a legendary.
Yeah, it's huge. And the fact that now you can send Cosmic Flux to your alts, it's like it's just a nice quality of life thing where like now you don't have to care about Cosmic Flux. You play your main
Yeah,
and then your alt, gets can be fed a bunch of power.
right,
And even to be fair, like your alt can do normal stuff and not, have to like farm up Zereth Mortis and do,
right.
stuff you're not finding fun.
It's
So
it's also I guess I said it was half a legendary, but really if you think about the Soul Ash and Soul Centers that you still need for a max rank legendary, you can get both of those for 3,000 Cosmic Flux. So you can think about a legendary really costing like 5,500 Cosmic Flux.
yeah.
So this just means it's like really easy to be able to just like throw Flux it at getting a new max rank legendary, not worrying about doing Torghast, even though you can go and do like a high floor of Torghast and get all of the Soul Cinders and Soul Ash that you need for a legendary in like one clear.
Yeah.
This is just easier. It also means you're
Yeah.
going to be able to catalyze more pieces because I know that was an issue that I ran into. I got a new piece that dropped. I had like 1,700 Cosmic Flux, but I needed
Oh
2,000
no.
to use Catalyst. So I had to do a
Yeah.
couple more keys.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. So no, this is it's definitely a good change, I think. Yeah, because I'm up, I think I was down to probably, you know, 3, 4,000 cosmic flux, and then we did heroic and I'm at like, yeah, like 9K or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
So plus some keys. So yeah, it's a good change, we'll say.
Yep. I'm happy
Um
about that.
well, cool. I mean, I think we've covered everything that's coming up. We got long maintenance on Tuesday, auction house patch, a bunch of hot fixes to stuff. I guess now we can maybe talk a little bit about some alpha news. And maybe some foreshadowing to when we'll finally see the monk tree.
Wasn't that
Which will be
supposed to be
fun.
this week?
So okay, original predictions was this week from me. I was off by, it looks, if everything's right, off a week, which is not bad, it puts us in the mood, puts us sort of in the region for it. So no, yeah, monk tree this week. I just of course predicted it a while ago to be this week. Didn't hit it. But we did data mine a bunch of new spells on Dragonflight Alpha for the monk, which again, this has always occurred generally the week before a class gets their talent to released. We see that
Mm-hmm.
that early build have a bunch of monk stuff in it. Um, and it's interesting. I mean, I'll talk about maybe the Mistweaver stuff real quick because it's pretty bland, we'll say. If you, I don't know if there's anything interesting about the Brewmaster stuff, which is the other
We'll
main
talk
one,
about some of
but
the Brewmaster stuff. Yeah.
yeah. So Mistweaver essentially got all of their legendaries, well, most of their legendaries from this expansion, along with a couple of conduits, sort of added in or data mine. Now, the interesting thing about this, which I think a lot of people are sort of like, oh, all of our talent's just going to be legendaries, and I think probably is one answer to that.
Yeah.
But the other answer could also be that like they're just pulling spells into Dragonflight, like the designers are just pulling spells into Dragonflight to test things, right? To
Right.
basically build something in the build, see if it makes sense, throwing things in and out. So, if you're expecting like ancient teachers of the monastery to be a node in the talent tree, I mean, there's probably still a pretty good chance it'll be there, but Zephyr doesn't have to be. So these aren't sort of locked in, but like Ancient Teachings is there, Clouded Focus is there, Tear of Morning is there, Yulan's Whisper, and then a bunch of the conduits like Jade Bond, Nourishing Chi, um, Resplendent Mist, which is just ugh. Um, so yeah. So that's sort of the Mistweaver stuff. Not that exciting, we'll say, until we see the tree, how it's laid out. I mean, that'll be sort of the real exciting part of it. But yeah, it looks like, I think like every other class, we're just gonna see a lot of your legendaries powers, right, coming forward. So
So I have a question.
yeah.
If your talent tree is just a whole bunch of legendaries, is that
Yeah.
a bad thing?
No. I think no. I mean, I don't like. I feel like people. I don't think it'll be a terrible thing. I think the ultimate thing will be how it's laid out.
Yeah.
Right. It's like how hard is it to get the specific sort of talents that you want, and what do you have to sacrifice to get there? Which is sort of always the game. Which is the game these talent trees sort of play. Right. It's
Yeah.
you know you'll have your. It seems like based on some of the other trees, you have your 3 to 4 capstones, right? And then so it's like which of, and generally speaking, you can get 2 of those. So which of the two do you want, and then how do you get there are sort of like the idea. And yeah, I mean, we'll see how it plays out. In terms of the initial release and then feedback from there. So, I mean, I think you expect to see like ancient teachings, expect to see like tier of mourning like on the tree and particularly
Right.
maybe at the capstone level. But it'll be interesting to see how they handle sort of some of where they place other abilities and maybe new abilities, right? Like I think that's the one thing that, there can still be, new abilities that aren't data mined that sort of are in that not yet implemented state. We're just sort of wait for them to finish off the implementation side of it. So um yeah, I mean, I'm not excited or not excited or down or up on it. It's just cool. They're pulling in legendary abilities, which makes sense because, you know, to be fair, in terms of like what they could bring back, they really only have till Legion, based on the current design. So it's like
Right.
anything before Legion requires probably a larger lift and shift than just going back to Legion and sort of pulling in some interesting stuff from Legion and then some of the stuff from of course Shadowlands, right? So
And it's also worth noting that they did mention, I don't remember which of the interviews this was mentioned, but it has been mentioned that they're not looking to do major spec redesigns going into Dragonflight
right.
for most specs. I think there's a couple that are getting more, and a couple that are actually kind of getting more just by virtue of the way the talent trees work. Like one of the demonology warlock things is that two of the effects that they currently stack in order to do the crazy things that they do are now capstones, and so they have to make hard choices about what they
Yeah.
take.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see how the Mistweaver tree lays out. But I mean, I don't have any sort of thoughts beyond it's cool that they're copy and pasted a bunch of information into Dragonflight Alpha now, which means we're closer to actually seeing the trees than not. So
Yeah. So for Brewmaster, we've already seen some data mining, so some of this is a repeat. Some of this is a repeat, but we're gonna go through it anyway, because there is also new stuff in here. So first off, I'm gonna briefly mention both the Bone Dust Brew and Bone Dust Brew Legendary and Conduit have shown up. This is like maybe across specs, we don't know. It got updated, probably showing up on one or more of the trees somewhere. We do know that sometimes they put like Covenant abilities on only one spec. That happened with
uh-huh.
Blessing of Summer for Holy Paladins, which everybody is certainly really excited is coming back because that was a fun
Heck yeah.
ability and not at all very frustrating to actually try and use. Hooray! At least I won't have to deal with it because tanks don't get it, and I'm definitely not playing healer. God,
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
I hate that ability. Is sorry, a little bit of a tangent, but have you ever tried to use that spell?
No, no, I'm not Night Fae on any character ever. So
That spell. So it's a 3 minute cooldown, right? Pretty
yeah.
pretty easy in theory. You push the button every 3 minutes. Bam, done. How? What could go wrong?
Yeah, it's easy.
Except that it's not a 3 minute cooldown. It's four 45-second cooldowns in sequence.
That's fun.
So what happens is you have one of them that you actually care about using, and you have to
Uh-huh.
pick which one you actually care about, because the other three, doesn't matter who you put them on, they're getting screwed. They're not getting the full value of it because they don't get to pick when they actually get it.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
you pick the one that you care about and you ignore everybody else just to like mash your thing on cooldown to get it back for when they want it. Like if
That's so
you're
fun.
prioritizing summer, you like obviously you want to put like the others on people that they're good on, but it's better to just like throw it on yourself and forget about it just so you get summer back than it
That's so
is to
funny.
actually think about the other buffs and accidentally delay your summer to the point that it's now desynced from somebody's 3 minute cooldown. Because that was the thing that would happen, like if there's fight downtime and
Yeah, yeah.
you would still like, it didn't matter if there was fight downtime and you couldn't hit the boss, you would put Blessing of Autumn on somebody just to get Blessing of Summer back in time to put it back on your boomkin.
It's so funny. That's
Like
so
it
funny.
doesn't matter that you're literally throwing it away. Your summer stops recharging unless you cast Autumn, and therefore you have to cast Autumn in order to get Summer back immediately.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, the ability's really annoying to use, and I am
That's funny.
shocked that they brought it back. I, I
Yeah.
I have not met a single person that was like, yeah, Summer is really fun and cool. At least like Power Infusion isn't annoying to use.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. Yeah. That sounds awful.
Anyway, back to the monk stuff. Enough about paladin things. Um, the other thing that we have that shows up that is like this is just a monk ability, Blackout Kick. There is this fluidity of motion talent now, or spell. We don't know the talent, but it's probably a talent given the name. It's not like a new rank of Blackout Kick.
Right.
Blackout Kick's cooldown is reduced by 1 second, and its damage is also reduced, not increased, reduced by 10%. Um, this is still a net damage gain if you always cast Blackout Kick on cooldown, because now you're casting it 25% more often, but it only does 10% reduced damage, so it's like a 15-ish% damage gain.
Uh-huh.
But what this actually does, and we're going to come back to this in a second, is this makes it work way better with Blackout combo.
Right. That's what I heard, is that the timings line up much, much nicer.
Yes.
Um,
Um, so we're also getting back, those of you that played Legion will remember the Bracer legendary. Each time you dodge or an enemy misses you, the remaining cooldown of your bruise is reduced by half a second. This thing is just absolutely great in keys. This thing is so good in keys. You pull a pack and you're just like you're dodging everything all the time. It's just huge cooldown reduction. It's amazing. Very happy to see it. That's gonna be a lot of fun. Um, Blackout combo changes. Blackout combo has needed a lot of love since it got gutted at the end of Legion, like in the BFA pre-patch. Um, so a couple things. First off, this is a direct beneficiary of the talent that reduces the cooldown of Blackout Kick, because you're going to get more combos, but also because it's going to make the cooldowns of all your abilities line up. The way we played this in Legion was you effectively had your Keg Smash effectively on a 7 second cooldown. Um, it might be like 6.5 or whatever, but it didn't matter. You were pushing it at the 7th GCD. And then you would do 2 blackout combo sets in between. You would go blackout kick, tiger palm, something else, blackout kick, tiger palm, something else, or blackout kick, tiger palm, keg smash. So it's the 6th. And then
yeah.
repeat. And that only works with the 3 second cooldown on blackout kick. With the 4 second cooldown, it just all breaks. So for blackout combo, it's got a number of changes on the other effects. The tiger palm effect is still just the damage increase to tiger palm, but the other ones are all different now. Breath of Fire increases the damage of the dot by 50% and the damage reduction by 5%, taking it from a 5% damage reduction to a 10% damage reduction. Heg Smash is still actually the same, I think. Yeah, it's just increased brew cooldown reduction. Celestial Brew, whole new effect. This one is actually really neat. When you empower Celestial Brew, it basically gives you 3 additional stacks of purified chi, which is like having an extra like red stagger purified before you hit Celestial Brew. Um,
Nice.
so that's actually really interesting because it means you can press Celestial Brew and have it be a bigger shield, even if you didn't purify damage beforehand. Which is sometimes a problem. Like sometimes damage is front loaded and you haven't had a chance to build up purified chi stacks. Um, on longer fights, you can like carry your stacks forward by refreshing them constantly by just throwing away purifying brews. Like you press it with like 5 damage staggered just to
Yeah.
maintain your chi stacks. This gives you a way to do that without having to maintain your chi stacks when you're not actually tanking.
Uh-huh.
And then stagger pausing got moved from Celestial Brew, where it was useless and bad, to Purifying Brew, which actually makes it significantly better. I don't know that it will ever actually see use again. This is a very neat and niche ability that has been used exactly once in the entire history of Brewmaster on Mythic Kill Jaden, and never again.
But it's
But
there.
it's there, and it's actually usable now. the thing that made pausing stagger strong is that you could do it repeatedly. You could go, you could pause it. I mean, in theory, if you had infinite haste, you could just pause stagger forever because there's a 3-second stagger pause with a 3-second cooldown on blackout kick. With Celestial Brew, you couldn't do that because the cooldown on Celestial Brew is 45 seconds. Can't. Plus, you have the shield, so why would you? With Purifying Brew, it's a lot more interesting because even right now, our effective cooldown on Purifying Brew is around 6 seconds. So you could actually do this like back to back. You could probably do this 3 times in a row right now, with the Blackout Kick talent to reduce the cooldown. So yeah, we'll see. This is very interesting. It could herald the return of actual Blackout combo rotations, which would be very exciting.
Nice.
And then there's a bunch of effects. I'm going to speed run a couple of these. Elusive Footwork and Dragonfire Brew, and Staggering Strikes are all just previous artifact or Azurite traits. Dragonfire Brew is just the one that when you use Breath of Fire, it breathes fire twice afterwards and increases your Breath of Fire duration. Nothing special about it. It just is a little bit of extra free damage. Elusive Footwork is a little bit of extra damage on Blackout Strike or Blackout Kick now, but importantly, crits on Blackout Kick give an extra stack of our mastery, so we dodge more. And then Staggering Strikes is just when you Blackout Kick your stagger, you like remove a little bit of stagger. Nothing too spectacular, but those are all just like reasonably solid throughput rates from previous expansions. Very similar to some of the stuff that Mistweaver got.
Right, yeah. Very nice.
Big exciting one. Like, okay, Charred Passions, if you're looking at the video, Charred Passions is coming back. It's literally identical, no changes. So if you know what it does in Shadowlands, you know what it does in Dragonflight. Immediately below it, Counter Strike. Each time you dodge or an enemy misses you, your next Tiger Palm or Spinning Crane Kick deals 100% increased damage. We've seen this one before. It didn't used to say Spinning Crane Kick, I don't think.
Gotcha.
Also, the number on how much damage it increased was not set, so we didn't know how much. Doubling the damage of Tiger Palm fits right in with doing things with the Blackout combo rotation. Blackout combo died because we lost Facepalm. In addition to nerfs to the talent itself, we lost the other effects that were buffing Tiger Palm damage, and so it all just kind of fell apart. This is reintroducing some of it, giving us more things that are buffing Tiger Palm damage. But the other thing this does is actually very neat. Spinning Crane Kick damage increase. The way that Charred Passions works is it copies the damage that your ability does. So if Spinning Crane Kick is doing double damage, it's gonna then do Charred Passions is going to do double damage. And so that's like quad damage, and that's pretty neat. And then a couple other ones, I think we've seen these before. Walk with the Ox. I feel like we saw that before. This is just an existing conduit. It buffs stomp damage from Invoke Neozal, but the big thing for us is it reduces the cooldown when you gain Shuffle from any ability. With, of course, the interaction that when you use Spinning Crane Kick, you gain Shuffle 4 times, and as a result, gain 4 times the cooldown reduction.
Yeah.
And then the other main one, the Zen Meditation Hat from Legion, aka Fundamental Observation, reduces the cooldown on Zen Med, and allows you to get hit by melee attacks while in Zen Med and not have it cancel. We currently can move while channeling Zen Med. That used to be one of the functions of the hat. It's now just baseline. It's still in the text of the ability, but we will see whether it's baseline or not once we actually get talent trees.
Yeah, as it comes out. Yeah. Nice. I didn't realize the Spinning Crane Kick, some of the damage modifiers you guys can get, which is interesting. If you're starting to combine some of those, if they are talents, right?
Right.
Nice. I mean, I guess what would be like any sort of thoughts on what you've seen? Like, I know you sort of described it a little bit, but I mean, in terms of like what you could see as like either capstones or like how the potential tree lays out, any sort of idea there?
So I could see. I don't think Charred Passions will be a capstone. Um,
Yeah.
it's engaging and it's impactful, but it's not like capstone tier. Like looking at what protection paladin got for capstones, right? It's like
Right.
divine toll. I have tier. I don't remember the third one, but there's a third one.
Yeah.
Charred passions just isn't that level. Blackout combo could be.
Okay.
Blackout combo, very popular, rotation defining ability, like super, super good when it's actually good. If they make it a capstone, it has to be good. Like
Yeah.
that's just like if they are going to make it a capstone, the capstone needs to be good. So then blackout combo, by definition, has to be good somewhere.
Yeah.
So maybe, maybe not. Like if they don't want it to be something that is necessarily always good, I don't know. But one of the big things I'm seeing here is um, laying the foundations for blackout combo to actually be good again. Like blackout combo in Legion was good basically through dumb luck. None of the reasons that it was good are reasons that they designed it to be good. Um,
Gotcha.
you only ever like outside of again Kill Jaden, you only ever buffed your Tiger Palm with your blackout combo. Never
Right.
anything else. So anything else was a mistake. You were doing it wrong if you buffed something else. Right now, you're doing it wrong if you take the talent at all.
Gotcha.
But like the reason it was good is the 3 second cooldown interacted really nicely. It gave you a very clean rotation, literal rotation. Like most classes have a priority list. With
Yeah.
blackout combo, it was actually a rotation. It was blackout combo, tiger palm, or blackout kick, tiger palm, egg smash, blackout kick, tiger palm, empty GCD. Or it was like either breath of fire or empty GCD. If you
Yeah.
wore the chest, you could breath of fire every one, but you need to you just have an empty GCD there. Very, very like strict rotation. And it was good because of that and because of facepalm. Facepalm just like had a chance, like a 70% chance by the end of the expansion to make your Tiger Palm do 400% damage, I believe.
Right. Yeah. It was ridiculously high.
So then you could actually get really big Tiger Palm value by again then tripling it with Blackout Combo. That was one of the nerfs of the Blackout Combo talent is it went from plus 200% to plus 100%. So from tripling it to
Gotcha.
doubling it. So you went from being able to get 1200% damage on Tiger Palm to getting plus 100% damage on Tiger Palm as soon as BFA hit, and it was awful.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Oh man. Well, I mean, I guess the big thing coming out of this is that I mean, hopefully we then see monk trees. I mean, it's really only monk and demon hunter left,
Yeah,
and I know a lot of the rumblings will say behind the scenes I'm hearing is demon hunter is having a little bit of a struggle in fleshing out their tree. So
shocker.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, well, I mean, maybe it's monk week. I'm not making any predictions. I already made mine. We missed it,
Yeah,
but I think it's looking pretty good that we'll see
yeah,
we'll see monks this week. At least some monk tree.
yeah,
Whether they take the paladin case and we get 2 of the 3 specs this week, I think we'll see some sort of a monk
yeah.
tree this week though.
I will say the one thing I can say with 100% confidence right now, if that Ambulant save, if the Legion Bracers stays as a talent, that from the data mining right now is the single most impactful talent that we've seen.
Gotcha.
Those things are insanely good in key.
Awesome. I mean, hopefully they drop those in there. So, um well, cool. And I know we're almost at time, but there was only one other topic I wanted to cover. Well, really one and a half, we'll say. But one, my final topic, or the final topic here, is just we did, along with this data mining of a bunch of monk spells and other spells, we did see data mining of covenant abilities for invokers, um, which is just interesting. And
Yeah,
the one thing I wanted to ask you about is like with so basically what it is, it's a very generic like you get health and it increases versatility for 12 seconds. And then the passive is like you get increased, it's like 4% damage and healing increase, right?
yeah.
So extremely boring. It's like a 2-minute
I,
cooldown that does more damage.
okay, so the headline does this like the headline is clearly clickbait. It's just
Right.
I know a bunch of people didn't read past the headline because this showed up in Guild. People were talking about it like, oh man, why are they going out of their way to design covenant abilities, plural, for evokers? When you go and look at it, and it's a
It's
versatility
one.
trinket. It's
Yeah.
just a versatility trinket.
Yeah. And it's only the like Yeah, it's only the use everywhere ability, right? But the only thing I had was it would be interesting if this now becomes, well, they say Invoker, if they extend this to every class, or
Oh
sorry,
yeah,
every class. And the reason
yeah,
being is that most classes are getting covenant abilities in their talent trees,
right,
right? So like the idea would end up being that this is now just to continue on and not get into that weird situation where you have like weapons of order plus like double weapons of order from the talent tree, and what does the game do with
right.
that? You know what I mean? If weapons of order is in our talent tree, but as an example, this may be just, while it says Invoker today, may end up being
I hadn't thought about that. That's
the
a
covenant ability for every class, right?
yeah,
As sort of just to keep that content, somewhat of a, or so they don't have to like redesign everything, or mess with like weird overlaps
yeah.
where
I mean,
it's better to stay at a lower level to do more damage because you have talents plus covenant ability. I don't know, some weird
it
stuff.
may also like so in the transition from Legion to BFA, they turned off all the Legion stuff.
Right.
No surprises, that happened. In the transition to BFA to Shadowlands, they didn't turn off all the BFA stuff, but you had to wear the Azerite neck in order to
Right.
use it. And they did ultimately end up turning it off in Shadowlands content. Like the neck didn't work in Shadowlands zones.
Yep.
Um, well, mostly, but it led to a lot of bugs. We had an issue for the first like 3 months or more of the expansion, where it was possible to just have all absorbs disabled on your character because you
Right.
had taken a specific Azerite trait in BFA and it was broken, and you literally
I
like
forgot about that.
you
Yeah.
could push Celestial Brew and then get killed by damage without absorbing a single point of damage. Celestial Brew.
Right. Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
there were a bunch of bugs there. So I would actually kind of rather them just be like, okay, 10.0 lands, all your covenant abilities are either gone or in the talent trees, and in their place, while you're in the Shadowlands zones, you have this generic versatility trinket effect.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is where I thought they were going with this, because it's just like, easily it's an easy thing to like just sort of clear it. Every class can make use of versatility. Not your best stat, but you get something from it. So
This also
um
lines up with if you remember what they did to legendaries that no longer functioned because of class changes post Legion.
mhm.
Those all just became like flat damage increases. So
Right,
like the
yeah.
Unity change, Boon of the Covenants passively increases your damage and healing by an additional 5%.
Yeah, just a flat, yeah,
Yeah,
flat damage. So I mean that's sort of my thinking here. I know it's just says invokers today, which makes sense to give them something if they have to go back, but
right.
um yeah, I think ultimately this may be something they roll out to everybody. Um So cool, and I know we're at time, but the last point five thing I said is I think we're gonna try and bring back Lore Corner, if we can continue to have time. And so like the idea ends up being is that you get to basically hear lore from me, from my perspective. So we'll basically do. I'm putting together like a little bit of a high level plan of how I want to go through this, but
Uh huh.
yeah, eventually we will get to lore by Anam. I guess we'll call it the Lore Corner, but it's lore by Anam. Um, through Dragonflight. And we'll try and keep it light and maybe not super spoilery, because I'll, to be fair, be sort of behind anyway.
Until
But
you
yeah,
get
the
Alpha, right? You get Alpha next week with the Monk Talents.
I have alpha. I got it like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks
Okay.
ago,
Okay.
actually. But no, the biggest problem now is that the zones are all disjointed. So like I get confused pretty easily when it comes to
Yeah,
story.
like 3 weeks
Oh,
ago, we had the opening zone, so you missed it.
yeah, exactly. So I missed the opening zone, and then like the first zone I jumped into felt like it was like a later zone. So yeah, we'll do actual Dragonflight, the expansion lore, probably a little bit later. But what I wanted to start with was more like a little bit of dragon lore just in general. So like where they come from, what they are, why we're going to Dragonflight, we'll say. And then once we get more, maybe a little bit, maybe it's beta and we can do everything in order. We're not doing this like disjointed sort of focus testing. We'll start lore corner back up. Not
All
every week,
right.
but we'll be sure to maybe make a post about what weeks we'll hit lore corner, and sort of you get to hear me recount how the story goes, how I think the story goes.
Yes. Always
So
fun. Always fun.
yeah, exactly. So well, cool. I think that's everything for this week, unless you had anything.
I think that is it. Um,
Cool.
yeah, that is. I get to go back tonight and do more Kelth.
Oh, that'll be fun. And then you get to like crush lower mythic,
Yeah,
which is always a good time. So
I get to rediscover which one is actually my least favorite Sanctum boss: Kel'Thuzad, Eye of the Jailer, or Fate Scribe.
it's probably KT.
It's probably KT. But that is going to be it for our show today. Thank you all for watching and or listening. And if you enjoyed this podcast and you want to support it and the other work that we do over on the Peak of Serenity, you can do that by going over to our Patreon and supporting us there, patreon.com/Peak of Serenity. And of course, patrons or not, come join the Discord. The lounges are great. When the actual monk talent trees come out, they will be the best place to get information about them, chat about builds, just like shoot the shit and have a good time.
Exactly.
But that is going to be it for our show today. Thank you all for watching and or listening, and we will see you next week.
Bye.